If I were to tell you that there are some bad habits that you're doing right now, every day, that are lowering your testosterone, would you believe me? Today we are going to be analyzing the bad habits that you have in your daily life that are hindering your testosterone levels as a man, as a high performer that is wanting to perform at his peak all the time and to funnel great quality work into scaling his business. Now there are 7 main things that we're going to be touching on, the 7 main culprits of hindering your testosterone levels as a high performer. And the first one that we're going to be starting with is sunlight and not getting enough sunlight. Sunlight is absolutely vital for your testosterone levels, especially when you are a digital entrepreneur inside your office for the majority of the day, not going outside a lot because you're working inside, quite frankly, and therefore you're limiting your exposure to sunlight, which is absolutely crucial. Now, the mechanism behind that is that whenever you're exposing your eyes and skin to sunlight, you are triggering the release of dopamine and testosterone in your system, which is absolutely crucial for performance, mood, hormone function, for immune system function, for cognitive performance, for energy levels, for optimal sleep, for all sorts of stuff. But the mechanism behind that is that there are many studies that show that your skin is an endocrine organ, and there's a specific molecule in your skin, in that endocrine organ, called P53 in the keratinocytes, which simply are the skin cells, that when the ultraviolet blue light penetrates the skin, it triggers the keratinocytes, which are the skin cells, to stimulate a pathway in the brain to release dopamine, and that is interrelated with releasing testosterone as well, because you should think as dopamine and testosterone being really close relatives, similar to cousins, let's say, for example. So whenever you have increased sunlight viewing in your eyes and skin, you also have testosterone. This is one of the main reasons why people in the dark, overcast countries, especially in the winter, have something called seasonal depression, simply because you do not get exposed to as much sunlight as your body would wish that you would, and therefore those mechanisms get impaired, and therefore you feel low in the winter times. So this is absolutely crucial for you to be able to go outside and get exposed to sunlight, even if it's dark and overcast, especially if it's cold. And if you live somewhere like in the UK, let's say you wake up in the morning, the weather is completely ass, you don't feel like going out, you feel like drinking your cup of coffee, doing some exercise in the morning, for example, doing some like chores around the house, and then starting work. This is what you might feel like doing, but the reality is that going outside, even when it's like gloomy, when it's like gray and cold, it's gonna give you benefits because there is still photon energy in the air, there is still photon energy in the sky, the sun is still out, even though it's not like the sunshine like if you were to live in, like, let's say in the Bahamas, you still will get exposed to sunlight even if it's cloudy. So go outside, get your eyes exposed to sunlight as much as possible. More than an hour a day is optimal, but just go outside, get your naked eyes exposed to sunlight, and you will activate those mechanisms and therefore stop hindering your testosterone production. Now the second thing is viewing bright lights, especially from screens, artificial lights, around the hours of 11 to 4 a.m. Now this is a big culprit, and this is not only applies to the digital entrepreneurs, but also the modern day society. Now it has been very clear due to dozens and dozens of studies now that bright light between the hours of 11 to 4 a.m. suppresses the release of dopamine. And this is something that is causing depression and anxiety, stress, insomnia, all sorts of disorders in the long term. This is one of the main reasons that young kids are lacking motivation, just because they are exposed to artificial lighting, especially from the screens, the computers, gaming, all sorts of stuff in the late evening hours. Because that release of dopamine is suppressed, we know that dopamine is the neuromodulator for motivation, for craving, for wanting you to pursue things. And if that is suppressed, all the mechanisms around testosterone as well are hindered. And therefore you're lacking motivation, you're more depressed, feeling low, you don't want to do anything, and that cycle begins. You don't want to go out, all the mechanisms get involved in that. So it is really important that we mitigate that issue by optimizing our environment, especially when we want to make sure that our hormones are the best profile that they can get. It's not really hard to, let's say, make a few tweaks, make a small and really impactful tweaks in our day-to-day lives to transform our lives, essentially. So rather than having all all the lights open, like the overhead bright lights open in the late evening hours, let's say 3 to 4 hours before bed. The most frequent time that people go to bed is around like 11 to like 1. So if, let's say, in the last 3 hours before bed, we make sure that our lighting is optimized. And what do I mean by optimized? It's such a vague term. Below eye level lights, dim lights, like orange, red lights, like if you see my stories on Instagram, for example, that's exactly what I do. But you don't have to turn your house into a cave, for example. Dim lights can do the job. So if you place like fire-like colors below eye level for the last 3 to 4 hours, not all days, like for the last 3 to 4 hours, and make sure that your environment is not like bright as a supermarket or like similar to when you are outside in the morning, you're good. So by making that small tweak, it's gonna be huge for your hormone profile, and you're not suppressing your dopamine and therefore causing all those issues. So in the last 3 to 4 hours before bed, make sure your environment is not lit up completely as bright as possible. Make sure that you eliminate all the overhead bright light and replace them with below eye level dim lights. If you're going to work, if you want to complete some admin tasks or want to watch some TV, you can put some blue light blockers on, whether that is red blue light blockers or transparent ones. The darker the color, the more intense you're going to be, and therefore the more blue light they're going to be suppressing. But it's not the blue light that causes the issues. It is the bright light. So even if your house is completely lit up by red fire-like colors, if they're bright enough, the mechanisms in your eyes that are responsible for sending those signals to your brain and waking you up are still going to be triggered. So it's not only blue light, so it's not like those blue light blocker fighters are going to be hunting me with blue light blockers when I say that, but it's not only the blue light blockers that are going to save you, it's the volume of light, is the actual brightness that you want to be taking care of. So make those few tweaks in your daily life, in your environment, so that you don't cause those issues with your mechanisms. The third biggest thing of damaging your testosterone levels is not sleeping enough. I see many of my clients, when they come to me, they have sleeping issues. Some of them, like the majority of them, like 50% of them actually, are telling me I sleep 8 hours a day. 8 hours a day is something that I try to do every single day, so I'm good. I don't know why I feel tired. I don't know why I don't feel like very alert and energized and focused. I sleep like 8 hours a day, but sometimes, very frequently, I wake up feeling tired and groggy. Why is that? The deal with it, 8 hours of sleep every night, it's a very generic term, let's say that. So what you want to do is make sure that those 8 hours are optimal or high quality sleep, because 8 hours of bad quality sleep is completely different from 8 hours of high quality sleep. What do I mean by that? You want to make sure that out of those 8 hours of sleep, 20 to 25% of those are REM sleep, and also 30 to 40% of those are deep sleep. This is what a good quality sleep is going to look like. Now, when you have 2 hours of wake time, and the majority of it is light sleep mode, it's mostly composed of the light sleep phase, because your body is either, your circadian clock is not optimized, your sleeping environment is not dialed in, many variables to this, but you need to make sure that the architecture of your sleep is optimal. And you do this by essentially tackling all the other variables of your home, like the environment that you're sleeping in, the lighting exposure that before going to bed, the thing that I covered in the previous two things. Essentially, if you do all the things that we're going to be covering out today, your sleep is going to be very improved, very much improved. So, and not getting enough high quality sleep. This is hindering your testosterone levels. Let me explain this. So REM sleep is one of the parts of sleep that the highest production of testosterone is observed. And you get the majority of your REM sleep in the last 4 hours of your normal 8-hour sleeping window. Now, this is given if you are making sure that your sleep architecture is what it should look like. Because a normal sleep cycle is composed of 90 minutes of sleep and is composed of light, deep, and REM sleep. Now, REM sleep occurs in the last, around after 90 minutes. In the beginning, it lasts like 2 to 5 minutes and it cycles. So let's say you're going through 90-minute cycles when you're sleeping, and every cycle of REM sleep in the end of your cycle is getting longer as you progress in the night. So that means that the last 4 hours of your 8-hour sleep window, you're getting the biggest chunks of REM sleep. This is, if you get something like an Oura, you will notice that in the graphs as well, that you get the biggest chunks in the last 4 hours of your sleep. And that means if you wake up 1 hour earlier than you're usually waking up, the majority of that 1 hour is going to be REM sleep. And this is going to be so detrimental for your sleep quality. The feeling that you get after, like waking up, your hormone production, testosterone speaking, this is going to be detrimental. So you want to make sure that those REM sleep cycles are as intact as possible, because less REM sleep is going to be meaning to less testosterone. And this is something that is killing your testosterone levels, not making sure that your sleep quality is optimized and not making sure that you're getting those 8 hours of sleep opportunity. Because if you're getting less than 8 hours, that means, for the reason that you now know, that your ability to acquire enough REM sleep is going to be impaired as well. So make sure that you're getting 8 hours of sleep every night, and make sure that you're setting yourself up, your body up, and your brain up for those 8 hours to be as high quality as possible, as you can, of course, right? I mean, if you have kids, if you have family, you can only do so much, but you can make sure that the things that you do are as optimal as possible. You don't have to be a robot, but the smallest, the simplest things have the biggest returns, and you can focus on them, on the lowest hanging fruits. Let's move forward to the thing number 4, which is not exercising enough. Now, I see a lot of entrepreneurs doing this again. The main aspect of an entrepreneur's health that they neglect is their body, and you cannot have optimal health without movement, without the adequate amount of movement. What do I mean by this? The majority of the day you're sitting on your ass. You're sitting hunched over in front of your desk doing work. And we know it's very clear now, due to lots of studies, that sitting for more than 8 hours a day consecutive is like smoking a pack of cigarettes every single day. So this is why I'm saying many times sitting is the new smoking, because it has even worse effects to a degree in your health than smoking does. So you need to make sure that to counteract the effects of being an entrepreneur, you have to incorporate the adequate amounts of movement in your day. Now, that is not only important in order to counteract the effect, make sure that sitting and working for the majority of the day is not detrimental, but we also need to make sure that we are not hindering our testosterone levels. Now, it is very clear from many mechanisms that exercising improves your hormonal profile in many ways. For example, cardiovascular activity, cardio, will improve your heart's ability to send blood to the vessels, to the organs, to the glands, anything that you might think of. Your heart sends blood and diverse blood to many mechanisms. And guess what? Testosterone, in order for it to land to various organs and systems to your body, it arrives with the bloodstream. So the more competent your heart is to send blood, the more testosterone is going to land to those mechanisms, to those adrenal glands and adrenal receptors, and make sure that it exerts its various functions, which is to make everyone feel good, to increase your mood, increase cognitive performance, all the good stuff, libido, all the good stuff that testosterone does. But not only that, to make sure to bind to the receptors as well, and it does that through the bloodstream. So the more competent your heart is at sending testosterone through the bloodstream, the better effects testosterone is going to have. So this is one of the reasons why making sure that your cardiovascular system is healthy, it is important for your testosterone levels. The other thing is that lifting weights, lifting heavy weights, exercising in the gym, for example, is good for your testosterone levels as well. This increases your testosterone levels as well, and also is good for your metabolic health, since you're putting on muscles and making sure that you're more metabolically healthy, because the more muscle you're going to have, the more calories you're going to need to sustain that muscle, and you're going to turn yourself into a calorie burning machine in the long term. So not exercising enough, you're hindering all those mechanisms, and you're making sure that your testosterone is not working as optimally as it should be. So do not neglect your movement. By movement, I don't mean that you have to be working out 2 hours a day. Something like 10-15 minutes of like quick, brief cardiovascular activity in the morning could do the job. This is what I'm currently doing. 10, 15, 20 minutes max of skipping rope or jump rope, whatever you call it, in the morning. This is what I do for my cardio. Or sometimes I do punch bag, sometimes I do jogging. I don't really like jogging, it's bad for my knees, but I do punch bag, I do jump rope very, very frequently. And then I do my regular 5 days a week of 1 hour, 1 hour and a half maximum of lifting weights. You don't have to do 90 minutes. Like an hour could do the job very, very nicely. And another thing that could work for you is doing 3 or 4 days a week for about an hour every time in the gym. Like let's say full body or upper lower. So you modify that according to your current state and level. So make sure that you incorporate that into your daily life. Having optimal testosterone levels is in your best interest. The next bad habit that is lowering your testosterone levels is not eating enough healthy fats and saturated fats. Now, if you go to your doctor, in your average doctor, he will tell you do not eat a lot of fat, avoid fats. This is what you are going to mainly read in those articles in your web browser, in the average Joe kind of website that tells you do not eat fats. Fats are bad for your heart. And this is true. If your triglyceride serum levels are elevated, this can be a bit impairing for your heart health. But for the most cases, that's not the case. Now, we need to understand, we need to keep in mind that cholesterol is where testosterone, estrogen, progesterone are synthesized from. So your sex hormones need cholesterol in order to be synthesized. Otherwise, they cannot be synthesized pretty much. So if you're eating single diet. I was a victim and a fool of doing that for the longest time. Essentially, I was dieting and eating super low fat diets in order to get like not eat as many calories, because 1 gram of fat is 9 calories and 1 gram of carbs is 4 calories. Essentially, I was focusing on eating high volume foods for low calories. So I was eating like a lot less fat than I'm doing now. So I was at a point that when I reached like 7-8% body fat, I was eating like 1,800 calories at my lowest. I have never gone lower than that. And I was miserable, dude. I was angry all the time. My libido levels was like struck to the ground. I didn't feel like I was way out of it. And you could argue that the fats I was eating, like 30-40 grams of fat per day, that was actually like I was castrating myself nutritionally. And this is exactly what you're doing when you're adhering to a diet that is low in fats. So eating healthy fats is absolutely vital for your reproductive system. If you're looking to have optimal libido levels, optimal mood levels, optimal energy, be operating cognitively, especially when you're in a high performer state, you want your brain to be firing on all cylinders. If you're dieting for the purpose of getting shredded and looking better and like a dialed in six pack and like veins everywhere as an entrepreneur, you are going to be sacrificing your quality of work for that sake. So that means if I were to be operating at the same level that I'm right now, like back like 2-3 years ago when I was doing that diet that I just explained, I definitely was not going to be able to do any shit done. So we need to understand that when we are high performers, it is completely different when we are trying to prepare for competition as bodybuilders. You can look amazing, you can look shredded, you can look like whatever you want to look like and feel like crap in the inside. You can be a metabolic disaster inside. Low libido, low mood, like having like mood swings all the time, it's not a good deal. So you can achieve the exact same body composition goals while feeling like $1 million. And this is what you should have as a high performer. When you're feeling good and like feeling the healthiest that you've ever been due to the optimal state of your hormones, of your biomarkers, you don't have any mineral deficiencies, you're eating nutrient-dense foods, you're eating your healthy fats, cholesterol, saturated fats, animal fats. If you're making sure that you're on your calories and macronutrients and micronutrients for the day, you're going to be achieving your body composition goals as a byproduct. So you can focus on being as healthy as you can and you are going to be reaching your body goals as well. You don't only have to be focusing on like macros, protein, carbs, and lifting 2 hours a day. And that means that I'm going to be really smart, because that's not the case. You will sacrifice your performance if you're focusing on one side of the spectrum. If you're not focusing on your gut health, if you're on the nutrient density, you're going to be letting that on the side and you're going to be feeling like crap in the inside. So you want to make sure that you're on the other side of the spectrum. The next thing is too much body fat. Having too much body fat is detrimental for your testosterone levels. Now, body fat produces something called aromatase. Now, aromatase is an enzyme that breaks testosterone down and converts it into estrogen. The more body fat you have, the more aromatase you're going to have, and the more testosterone is going to be converted into estrogen. So whenever you are trying to dirty bulk, for example, or whenever you are obese, morbidly obese or obese in general, you are making it so much harder for your system to maintain a good profile of testosterone, of your sex hormones essentially, because your estrogen is going to be out of whack, your testosterone is going to be out of whack, and your balance is going to be impaired negatively. So by making sure that you're in optimal body fat level, you're going to be making it optimal for yourself to be in good testosterone levels. Your sex hormones are going to be in a really healthy profile. So do not be in a obese or in a high body fat level. This is detrimental for your testosterone production. Now we have 2 more crucial points to cover and we're done for this video. It's taken a long time, but the one of the 2 is too much mental stress. Now, when we are not competent enough to deal with stressors, because as an entrepreneur, it's really normal and natural to be stressed by many things, right? At least this is how most of us think that it should be the case. So you could have stress in your day, you have employees working for you, something is not going right. There are many stressors to being an entrepreneur, like business is not going in the way that you want to be going, you have way more things in your plate than you would expect to have. Many stressors that could possibly stress you as an entrepreneur. Now, when you're chronically stressed, when you're stressed all the time and your body is not capable of dealing with stress efficiently because you are not working according to your biology, your diet is crap, you're not getting enough good quality sleep, you're not exercising, you're not moving, your lifestyle is not conducive to your body dealing with stress efficiently, you are going to be chronically stressed. Now, when we are stressed, we produce the stress hormone called cortisol. Cortisol and testosterone are antagonizing, because cortisol and testosterone are both synthesized from cholesterol. Now, that means that when one is higher than the other one kind of suffers. Cortisol Cortisol is really vital for your health. Don't get me wrong. It's really important for your immune function, for your energy, for your alertness, for your focus. If you are following me for a while, it is very clear to you, and you now understand that you want to have a healthy cortisol pulse in the morning in order to have energy, focus, alertness, cognitive performance, immune function, and all the good stuff. Essentially, it is like your body's natural coffee. You want to have it in the morning to wake up and do high quality work and fire. But too much cortisol over time, for example, for many things like not getting enough sleep, and when you're not getting enough sleep, cortisol is being left out in your system, and it can be result in you having chronically high levels of cortisol over time, which is going to be making your testosterone levels suffer, because cortisol is an antagonist of testosterone. So when it is really high over time, testosterone level is going to suffer. So if you're making sure that you're not getting enough sleep and your sleep quality is bad, the foods that you're eating are not conducive to optimal health, because your gut health is directly related to your mental health, because the hormones that you're producing for anxiety, for feeling feared, for feeling too much stress are directly affected with your gut health. So that can help produce more cortisol. Like for example, if you're not exercising, if you're not introducing mechanisms that will make your body more competent to dealing with stress, for example, meditations, cold showers, or going out for a simple walk, you are making sure that your cortisol levels are chronically elevated, and therefore your testosterone levels are going to suffer. So if you want healthy testosterone levels, please make sure that you make your body competent to dealing with stress, and you control those mental stressors. You turn yourself into a machine of dealing with stress efficiently, and not an overreactive entrepreneur. You don't want to have that. Let's go to the last point of this video, which is, fun enough, too much masturbation, too much compulsive behaviors that will deplete your dopamine systems. Now, porn and masturbation is something that really hinders your testosterone production. Why is that the case? Now, when you are indulging in behaviors like masturbating, you are going to be depleting your dopamine system. This is a vague term, but let's analyze that a bit. When you're watching porn, you're going to be getting used to getting that arousal from watching people participate in the action of sex, and not you actually participating and adhering to the action of sex. So you're going to be increasing your dopamine levels after masturbating, and that is going to be wanting you as well to seek the action of masturbating more, because that is a high dopaminergic activity. Masturbating will elevate your dopamine levels above baseline. Afterwards, your brain is going to be seeking that action over time, because it is rewarding your brain, and your brain is motivated to do that. So it is an action that done compulsively. I know that you probably have been in the place of doing that compulsively, or most of you have been in the place as well. So you will end up doing it compulsively over time, and actually what's going to happen is that you will not feel as good as you first did when you first done that, because you're draining your dopamine system. So you will end up doing it compulsively and trying to get yourself to feel as good as you were feeling beforehand, but it's not going to happen, because you're going to be draining the dopamine system. When you're constantly getting dopamine out of your system, when you're constantly elevating your dopamine system, you're making your threshold lower and lower and lower. So it's going to be really harder to get that dopamine out of it, because you're going to be draining your dopamine system essentially. So not only that, what makes your body produce testosterone when it comes to mating and having sex is the action of hunting, of seeking, of trying to acquire sex essentially. And when you're indulging in porn in the long term, you're not going to be aroused for that. You're not going to be caring for that, because your brain is wired to watch people have sex on your screen, and your natural mechanism of seeking, going out and hunting for sex is not going to be as active, because you are wired to release dopamine. And therefore, when your dopamine is depleted, as you remember, dopamine and testosterone are cousins, testosterone levels are going to suffer. So when you deplete your dopamine system, as I told you before with the other mechanisms, testosterone is going to suffer, and therefore you're going to be feeling unmotivated to do hard stuff. Your hard work is going to be feeling like crap. I know you have felt this before. For example, if you go out and party like a day, and you indulge in like video games or in a high dopaminergic activity, the next day work feels like crap and you want to do this again. Your brain is telling you, oh, I like that thing you did yesterday, let's do it again. And you cannot focus properly. Hard work feels like crap, because your brain is really responsive to that high dopaminergic activity, and therefore you have drained that dopamine system, and the next day you have to give it back. Like if you get high levels of dopamine, the next day it's going to be having some side effects. So you want to make sure that you're getting your dopamine from healthy activities, such as delayed gratification. When you're achieving hard tasks, hard goals with your business, you get a dopamine response, but you're not getting it instantly. It's not like playing a video game or eating a bar of chocolate or doing drugs. Like you get the reward instantly. You know what I'm talking about. It's called delayed gratification. So the last thing that is detrimental for your testosterone levels is masturbating and porn. So by removing that out of your life, you're gonna be making it easier for your body to maintain a healthy testosterone level. So that was it, guys. Those are the habits that are killing your testosterone levels as a male, as a high performer, by successfully removing them out of your daily life and by successfully attacking them and making sure that you dial them in, your lifestyle is going to be turning into a more conducive lifestyle to optimal testosterone levels. Your hard efforts are going to be feeling good. You're going to be motivated to do hard stuff. You're going to be more eager and more inclined to challenges in your business, and you're going to be more capable of taking risks and moving the needle forward as a high performer. Having low testosterone levels as a high performer, as an entrepreneur, can be detrimental because you're going to be afraid constantly, not inclined to do hard stuff. You're not going to be able to do hard shit constantly without gratification because you're wired to having instantly rewarded, your brain being instantly rewarded with stuff you're doing. So make sure that you optimize your testosterone levels, and your brain is going to love it. Your quality of work is going to be really, really high, and you're going to see the results for yourself. That's all I had to say about this topic today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any other suggestions or ideas for me to cover on in future videos, please let me know down in the comments, and I will be sure to do so. Other than that, guys, as I say in every video, I cannot wait to see you in the next one. Cheers.